We have hit some technical issues.
Hello and welcome to our channel. We're Jojo and Scott. We live in the Highlands of Scotland. In August last year, we took on a big challenge. We bought a bright yellow van ready to turn into a camper. It's been a much bigger job than we expected, from ripping out the filthy interior, scrubbing away at the grime, to finding some nasty surprises. It's been a hell of a ride, with loads of ups and downs. We'd love for you to join us on this journey as we take a filthy ex-fleet vehicle, strip it back to the basics, and build up a tiny home on wheels. Thank you so much for watching.
So the first 2 weeks of April we'd been busy recording. We'd been working hard on the van and we'd had the camera out recording all the little bits and pieces we'd done. We had a full 2 weeks worth of footage to put together in a lovely video, and what happened?
We found out that the video had no sound. There was something wrong with the microphone cable, and we've decided to do this podcast style instead.
Yeah, so we've recorded a long voiceover so you can see what's going on in the video, but let's get to it, and here we are starting work on the inside of the van. Enjoy! So, on a lovely sunny day in April, except for it wasn't, it was snowing, we decided to get to work on the interior of the van. So here's Scott introducing us to the mess that is the van. The day before, we'd rushed to get the gas inlet fixed because it was the last day of sunshine. So he'd kind of set up this weird plant pot arrangement with the pipe curled around it.
Yeah, I put that there because the big coil of pipe was just, its own weight was bending itself.
Yeah, and this is him showing us where the cooker vent is.
That's the wastewater pipe, and that's where the waste tanks connect to the floor.
Yeah, so that's where the feet are drilled up and into the floor. And the day we did it on a Sunday, it was pouring with rain. It was just a miserable day. It was really windy, wasn't it? There was not much hope when it...
Yeah, it was cold, windy, dusty.
Yeah, it wasn't much hope when it came to filming. So we got the tank on because we knew that it was going to be snowing that morning. So we were just in a rush to kind of get the last of the outside jobs finished and hopefully move on to the interior this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. We've got all the bits of floor sitting over there. That's what I was pointing to.
I think you were pointing out the power inlet actually. We're saying we finished all of the ins and outs things, but then we've still got the shore power connection to do.
Oh gosh, yeah, we ordered that on the 5th of February. And it's now mid-April and we still don't have that piece, so that's why we had a bit of wall sitting not done.
That's right.
Yeah. But yeah, stacked over there as well are all the bits of floor that need replacing. And here I'm going to show you how weird the weather is. Kind of sunny, kind of snowing.
Kind of a sunny, snowy, windy storm thing going on.
Yep. Yeah, it was very much a case of just close all the doors of the van.
Yeah.
Sit inside.
And watch the hail.
You could feel the van swaying in the wind, couldn't you?
Yeah, it just shook.
And you could hear, what was it underneath the heat plate?
Oh yeah, there's a heat plate around the exhaust that I need to just bend slightly because it's rattling against another heat plate.
Yeah.
This was us starting to put the floor panels back in because we'd lifted them up to, well, get into things to attach the wastewater tank and whatnot.
So we're having to re-chop small holes in for the ins and outs. So here was the first task for the day. We'd insulated that area of the wall quite well, but there was just this little annoying strip at the side.
The PIR board was just not quite wide enough, so we decided we'll put this massive chunk in and get this little sliver to the left of it later, and later wound up being quite later.
Yeah, because it had a funny slope to it and we needed a thinner piece.
It had to get carved.
Yeah, so you spent a while carving that, didn't you,
It was fiddly.
to get it to fit. And then it was a case of getting it attached as well because it didn't really want to stay put very well.
Yeah.
We managed to get one of the wee spikies at the bottom.
And then we had to use some foil tape at the top just to get it to sit still.
Yeah. So here's the finished result. One beautifully carved piece of insulation board.
That's what it is. So we finished that part up and we had put the floor panels back in.
So here's a summary of the insulation. So the floor panels have gone back in. There's the vent for the cooker, the outflow for the sink, the water inlet, we've covered the wheel arches there. Scott's finished up that, and I'd spent the day cutting this very odd shaped piece to go around the cab. And now it's hailing. Could this day get any better?
Weirdest weather.
Yeah. Just went mad from snow to hail to then warm sunshine.
Here we are working out the overhead kitchen cabinet. These two sticks are going to make up the end face of the cabinets. They're quite fiddly, and at this point they actually weren't the size they were going to be. But that was the arrangement we were going for. The thinking was that we would then get this big horizontal beam, rest it on the overhead parcel shelf, and we would then connect that to these two little sticks at the end, and that would kind of be the majority of the overhead cabinet.
And suddenly it's done. That's the main framing of the upper cabinet. Gonna complete. Obviously it's missing some pieces still. We haven't finished the thing. Scott's managed to, he's still got some kind of horizontal bits to do there. This main beam, kind of the weight of it supported on the bit of wood that we had on the parcel shelf. And the vertical beams there we've screwed in from the back because we're not very good at pocket holes, and that's just the truth of this.
Yep, pocket holes are tricky.
Yeah, it just wasn't going well, so we found ways around it. Scott screwed the top bar into the bits of wood that he'd bolted into the metal of the van that you'll see in a previous video. So they're not going anywhere. That's very secure.
Yeah. It's actually bolted to the metal itself. So
as are these beams on the back wall, and very secure in place. So that was the plan originally when we put those in, that we were going to attach these cabinets to them.
Lots of forward planning. Yeah, we were saying here that the curvature of the van made this a little bit tricky.
Yeah, because it curves in at the front and the roof curves down, so you don't really have any straight lines you can measure to. So that was where the floor came in. Mm-hmm. We'd positioned the beams so that we had a centre line.
That's it. And those two blue beams that I just pointed at, they're measured at the same distance away from the centre.
So again, because we're not very good at pocket holes, Scott's using a metal bracket to attach the horizontal bars to the wood at the back of the wall. That worked really well, didn't it?
Yeah, it worked great. Those things are solid now.
Okay, so that's the main part of the cabinet framed out, and we've got our horizontal bars in pretty solid. And we still need to put a front face on, and clearly the bottom as well. Over here we've brought the bed beams back in.
Because we need to attach all of the kitchen cabinets essentially to the edge of that. Everything's measured relative to the bed.
So over here, this is where the sink unit's going to go. We've got a piece of cardboard here. That's the same size as the fridge.
That's the fridge simulator.
That's where the fridge is going to go. And then this pipe here is the outflow, so the sink is obviously going to go above that. And we've got the beams on the back wall, and that's what we're going to actually attach the counter to. And I'd been busy foil taping the floor where we're going to build it, so that we wanted to build it directly onto the wooden beams on the floor, so it's very secure and held in place.
And the sink's here along for the ride too.
Yeah, the sink's come to have a party.
Next up, we were planning the 4 vertical beams for the kitchen worktop.
The legs.
Yeah, the legs. One of the things with building in a van is it's tricky to actually build a counter and then just put it in. It's best to sort of actually build it into the van itself. And that's what we were trying to do. So we tried to just set out these sticks and visualise how we're going to put it all together.
I guess the point kind of is as well, you can just build it as a square and pop it in the van, but it's not always the best use of space. There's a lot of intricate little curves and sticky out bits, and we wanted to build the cabinets around that.
This point here, we had this little metal bracket in the way of where we wanted to put this vertical. So I had just spent half an hour sawing a metal bracket. There it is there.
Yep, much shorter. That's much better.
Did the trick.
Just the things you don't think of.
Well spent half hour.
Yep. So then that was so that we could actually fit the leg, the corner leg into the corner. Does that make sense?
The corner leg in the corner.
Yep, it fits well now. Some good chopping.
And we're just screwing that straight into the wooden beams that are bolted to the metal.
I'd like to point out at this stage it's really important to drill pilot holes when you're putting screws through wood.
Yeah, because we're using fairly thin wood, it can split so easily if you just drive a screw into there. We've done it.
Yeah, we've had it happen many times. So
Yep, always pilot hole.
Yeah, so that's where Scott's got his trusty hand drill.
I love that hand drill.
That's built the van, that thing has.
That little stick there is not going anywhere.
And now we're on to the floor beams as well. So we used brackets at the corner to strengthen it.
And that floor horizontal thing is screwed into the floor itself.
So that's pretty secure.
We attached it to the floor first of all, and as you can see the beam's just kind of sticking up so that we could then work out how to attach the top rectangle.
And same again for the other side. Just pretty much the same procedure, but
Screw it in.
again. The awkward thing about this side was you put it at a funny angle, didn't you?
Oh yeah, because the back corner leg wasn't quite hard up against the bed, if we put the front leg sort of straight out from the wall, then we're going to have a big gap between the counter and the bed. So we put that leg slightly squint towards the bed. So it does make the counter slightly squint, but it then closes a gap and we get a bit more space inside the cabinet.
And you could see looking top down that the counter's squint, but you can't see if you look straight on.
Mm-hmm.
So
although the front face of the counter is still going to be sort of parallel to the wall, it'll be fine.
yeah, hopefully nobody will notice.
And now we had all 4 of the legs attached to the floor, and we were starting to build the top rectangle. At this point, they weren't all completely attached. We were sort of sizing up the last 2 sticks, figuring out how to attach them. That's those 2 bits of wood marked up. So the plan there was we were going to take those last 2 pieces away, screw them together, because the screw would be tricky to get into otherwise, and then we take it back to the counter, screw it down, all good. This vertical beam here that I'm holding onto, the idea with that thing is to give the counter a bit more strength, and it's also what we're going to attach the wall cladding to that will go behind the kitchen counter. So that will sort of make an end of the wall, and then we'll have bedroom space. Now, all of the beams that make up the base of all of the furniture is attached. So here we have the pull-out pantry.
Yeah, so the skinny bit here is for the pull-out pantry baskets.
Look how perfectly it fits. The hooker goes here, and this big stick here is going to make the wardrobe.
That's the front face of it. Almost ready to be stuck in place.
Next up, I'm attaching a big overhead beam that we will, attach overhead cabinets to. These cabinets will be over the foot end of the bed, but we will also be attaching the pull-out pantry and wardrobe to this big beam. We figure just one great big beam to attach it all to would be the best and strongest way to go about it.
Yeah, I think a good point is as well, where we're attaching the pantry, it's slightly over the sliding door. So there's not a lot of space, there's not a lot of wall to attach it to.
Yeah, so we have to be kind of crafty with how we actually secure the thing.
Yeah, so we wanted some more strong ceiling attachments as well. And we figured one long beam there, that should...
Yeah, so it's
do them
attached to a
all.
lot of stuff.
So again, Scott's got the hand drill out, he's drilling his pilot holes.
We're screwing this big overhead beam into those wooden beams that are bolted to the metal of the van itself. So that sucker ain't moving.
And it's safety as well when you're driving around in a van.
Yeah.
Trying to get everything as securely attached to the van as possible.
If you brake suddenly, you don't want that stuff crushing you.
No. And of course you can't guarantee that it's not going to, but securing it more...
This apparatus here at the end We attached that stuff up there so that we could press this overhead beam hard against there. That way we could attach the end of the pantry to this beam as well. Oh, next up is the cooker base. So because the cooker sort of overlaps the sliding door step area, we had to prop up the corner of it with an extra block of wood. All of the framing wood, apart from the blue stuff, is 25 by 50 millimeter wood, and this big block here is 50 by 100 millimeters.
And there's my foot being really helpful.
Really, I couldn't have done that without you. I'm such a clumsy bit of wood. We glued the foot down with Sikaflex so that that sucker doesn't go anywhere.
And also, because you could just have it kind of pressing down,
Yeah,
but then it would rattle as you're driving.
it would
and
shake.
just-
Oh, here's a good trick I use. I put a glove over the end of the Sikaflex tube, squeeze some Sikaflex out, and kind of make a bulb on the end, so that when it sets, you can just rip a big bulb of Sikaflex off, and hopefully it pulls the stuff out from the inside of the nozzle. So then you've just got a tube ready to go again.
and it's fresh and ready to go. That's actually saved us loads of money because we've
Yep.
been able to reuse half-empty tubes of Sikaflex.
Make a sacrificial bulb on the end of your Sikaflex tip, sizing it up.
Sizing it up, and I think disaster's about to strike. Yep,
What was the
he's
disaster?
given up.
What was we did wrong? Oh, I burst
you
some vapor
always
barrier.
do that. Every time he moves in the van, he's bursting the foil
It's
tape.
horrible. I just kind of exist in the space and go pop. Like,
Yeah.
oh, how'd this happen?
So I'm often following him around with foil tape.
Yeah, this time I fixed my mistake.
You did fix your mistake, yes. Oh, that was good of you. Okay, that's looking good. You know what this van needs?
What does it need?
A massive rock.
Oh, yeah. I think it's a good idea to weigh down any glued things that you've got with a great big rock. Aha, here we go. Time for a giant big rock. So, I think if you've got some glue drying, in this case Sikaflex, you want it to dry under some kind of pressure. So I set a big rock on it so that it dries where you want it to stay.
Well,
held down.
I think it's not a good idea to bring rocks that are covered in bugs into the van.
Just dust them off, it's fine.
Yeah, no, I'm not a fan of it.
Ping them off.
Not a fan.
Just shake it.
They're so dirty.
They fall off. They're not very good at holding onto boulders.
No, the dirt on the boulders is dirty.
Dust it.
Yeah. Then who has to clean the van?
Me.
Don't believe that.
I accept the problems.
Oh look, it's the next day.
And the rock magically
Amazing.
disappeared.
That's fantastic. It's looking much better now.
So that's
So,
everything framed
yeah,
out,
all
at
the-
least to the floor.
To the floor, and we've got a lot of the verticals in. So it's looking good. It's time to start chopping some ply. Today we're going to lay the ply subfloor.
Yep. We're using 3mm thick ply to just make a protective layer on the floor, so that I don't burst the vapor barrier
so that
anymore.
somebody will stop putting their feet through the floor.
Yeah.
So we've just gone for a very thin layer, like we say, to protect the vapor barrier. And there's other options for the floor as well. There's loads of other like really great options, but we'll maybe chat through why we've chosen this method, shall we?
We want the van overall to be as light as possible. I mean, we don't need to be carrying around extra weight. So we're going to be putting vinyl flooring down on top of this later on. Vinyl click, it's called. And so that stuff's pretty sturdy in of itself.
And if you seal the edges, that should create a waterproof barrier.
Mhm.
So we weren't too concerned that the subfloor has to be
Yeah.
ultra waterproof.
The floor underneath the subfloor has already got foil tape on it, so that in itself is vapor blocked. So really, we just wanted to have a layer above the vapor barrier to try and stop it getting burst. Simple as that.
And to have something to lay the other floor on top of as well. It's
give it
not
kinda
just
smoother.
a smoother finish. So we've taken this incredibly thin ply, and that's what we're doing. We're cutting it to fit the floor of the van.
Yep.
Other options include, a lot of people I see, they lay out the floor first and then
Yeah, they'll
maybe-
attach everything to the floor itself.
yeah, so that's another option. You could maybe put in, what's it called, lino,
Yeah, you can-
linoleum, and a lot of people do that, and then they just kind of pop the cabinets on and maybe attach them to the back walls. We didn't feel that was secure enough.
We wanted to secure all of the furniture into beams that are attached to the floor.
Yeah.
You could potentially put down really thick sheets of ply and attach everything to that, but we're also going for lightweight. So beams, glued down, screw the furniture into that. That's our plan.
Yeah, and I think there are probably pluses and minuses to all the different types of floors. Ours may not be the most waterproof if the vinyl doesn't work, and it was a very complex and tedious way to do it.
Yeah.
So it took a long time.
Could have been simpler.
Yeah, so that it probably doesn't win prizes for the fastest way to do your floor.
Definitely not. We had to measure up everything against the position of where the bed was going to go.
Yeah.
That's why we did that.
And the thin ply is not
It's not strong.
Not strong, not good to work with. When you use a wood jigsaw blade on it, it just kind of chews it up.
Yeah, we realised that using a metal blade didn't smash the edges quite as much. Also, chopping ply, my gosh, you can't just put it on a table and chop it. You need to have like an overhang for the blade on the jigsaw, and if you try and set ply at a table, then you're climbing on a table to chop your ply. So we've figured out that the best way to chop ply is with a pallet.
Yeah, so that's why we're doing it outside. So that created another issue when it came to the ply chopping stage, in that every time it starts to rain, we have to run inside.
Yeah, suddenly pack up. We can't just do it in the garage.
And here's Scott with the first piece of floor that we've cut out. Is it going to fit?
I think it will. Have a look at that.
Slides into place. I think that was the only piece that actually went in on the first cut, wasn't it?
But look at that. Like a glove.
The subfloor was fixed into place using some tiny little screws.
Yep, they don't need much to hold them in place.
Yeah, and pilot holes, drilled pilot holes.
Pilot holes all the way. Don't split that stuff.
Yeah, that 3mm ply is just waiting to split. You know, you look at it funny and it splits.
The wind blows the wrong way and it has split.
Tiny little spider walks across it. Oh no, it's split.
Yep.
Yeah, just drill pilot holes. Much better idea. Oh, this piece was a pain.
So I tried to measure up where the waste pipe was coming through in the floor and cut a hole for the pipe to come through the board, but I wasn't able to quite get the board into a sort of good relative position.
Yeah, we were suffering from plywood drift.
Yeah, so the hole's a little bit off, but the pipe was still able to get through.
Yeah, and you needed to cut a bit more off that corner as well. That was the problem.
That's also true, yeah. So the hole's a little bit off, but the pipe fits through it. So we'll maybe go chop it later on and correct it.
Yeah, there was so much to take into account with this piece because of all the little corners and edges and
nooks.
Yeah, this was maybe an example of why you should put a floor down first.
Yeah, it would definitely make it easier.
With some adjustments, it finally went into place, but we couldn't screw it in the corner that we're showing you because there wasn't any wooden beams there, so we had to glue it down.
Yep, Sikaflex.
Yep. We also had a bit of a gap between the two pieces just with the way it...
Yeah, the wood was also just a little bit frayed there.
Yeah, where the supposed wood cutting jigsaw blade.
So you can see there we've put down a strip of Sikaflex on the stuff.
Yeah, this is the next day.
That's right, this is the next day.
Yep.
I've taken the rock out that spent the night.
Yeah, Scott likes to bring rocks into the van.
It held it down while it dried.
And we put some Sikaflex in the corner to hold that down, and we had, because we were lacking wooden beam, I think that's what I was trying to explain. This piece was a bit of a pain. We'd still had the under the bed area that we needed to do, plus this super awkward bit up in the cab as well. We were not looking forward to that.
Yep, such a strange shape.
And that's me showing off the wardrobe. We're very proud of that front face of the wardrobe.
Good vertical sticks. Ah, that's the joining piece between the frayed edges. That wasn't to glue it down or anything. That was just because the plywood sheet sort of frayed, the fibres would come off, so that held the fibres together.
Yeah, and also the Sikaflex helped cover the screws as well to
Yeah.
kind of create a more smooth threshold over that bit. Stop you tripping over it.
I've tripped on those screws, as small as they are.
Yeah. So that was Scott's task of the morning, building a wooden frame.
Yeah, that was to support the gas pipe, because you don't want to just punch a gas pipe.
Yeah, and my focus was the cab. I'd been vapor barriering, especially under the passenger seat, and creating a cardboard template to try and chop a piece of ply to fit. It was very tedious, especially with the handbrake. And we had the handbrake cover to fit. So that was the old bracket that the cover was held on with. We'd had to chop that in half because the handbrake had gone down and the floor had come up, so there wasn't enough room for the whole thing.
I'll remind you, say that the handbrake had to go down so we could get the swivel seats on.
Yeah, so that's the handbrake box that was originally on. So we'd had to cut that down as well to fit back on. So
I'm quite happy with the job we did on that handbrake box. It looks tidy.
yeah, no, it went on okay in the end. This is when chaos started as we were using the cardboard template.
Yeah. We thought we'll just draw a lovely template on this ply and get a funny shaped bit of ply chopped up. But look at the size of those hailstones!
Yeah, it just started hailing. And we tried to fight through, didn't we? We were like, you know what? It's not as wet as rain.
Yeah, we're like, it's fine. We'll just wince and take the pellets in our eyes.
Yeah, but in the end it won, didn't it? So we kind of abandoned that job and covered the ply up, ready for the hail to stop. And then the hail stopped immediately, so here's Scott taking the cover off it again.
Yep, just a quick covering of ply with throwaway ply.
That was the
And
ply
we're back to
that...
chopping.
Those were the bits of ply that we originally took out the van.
Yeah, they've been quite useful for lying on the ground to crawl under the van so we don't get rocks in our butts.
They're also useful to protect the new ply from hail.
Yes,
Wow, so that's
perfect. Hail preventing.
hail protective ply.
Yeah, hail proof ply.
Hail-proof ply. Doesn't sound right. So yeah, now we can finally get back on with the task of chopping this awkward shaped piece. And what problems did you run into here?
So, cause we're trying to overhang the ply off of a pallet, it's gonna flap around and it's really thin, so you can see it flapping there. So just trying to chop through it ends up really tricky. I mean, we got there in the end, but there's a trick to chopping 3mm ply, I swear.
Maybe not with that jigsaw blade.
Yeah, it was a very... the jigsaw blade had very large teeth, so it frayed the wood.
Yeah.
I recommend using metal blades for thin ply. Fine-toothed blades.
Which we learnt after a few mistakes.
Yeah.
And it's time to fit it in the cab. And of course, what we don't take into account is cardboard is quite floppy and foldable, so you can get it in and out easily. Ply is not.
Yeah, trying to find an angle to slide this big, fairly rigid bit of ply in there was tricky.
And it needed a few tweaks as well.
Yeah, it did.
So that made it all the more difficult. So that took a good amount of time to...
Yeah, I think this shot here was us actually managing it.
Yeah, just trying to get it into place. Not fun.
Yeah, just leave that there. Perfect. Good to go. That's a floor. See? No
Well,
problem.
it's not a floor if it's not on the floor. Come on, Scott, you can do it.
Get in there, floor piece.
That's another point, actually. There's like little bits sticking out the seat base that are just stopping it going down. Yeah.
I think that was us finally getting it just in position. Yeah, that's it. What a nice floor.
So eventually when it goes in. And the good thing was we had a nice wooden beam behind the two seats, so we could screw it in.
Yes, so
Quite
we didn't have to glue this bit down.
No, we could screw it in securely, which was nice. Look at that.
We drew a line on the ply to try and make sure we screwed into the beam underneath.
Yeah, so here's Scott bringing something to draw a straight line on the
Yep.
floor so that we could line up the screws and make sure we were screwing into ply, through the ply into the wood rather than into insulation,
Yes,
which would not be good.
make sure it actually stayed there.
And that's my shoulder.
And I'm so confused.
so confused. What's going on?
Nothing left to do but to drill some holes and attach this piece of ply down.
Pilot holes.
All the way.
I think the next bit coming up, we didn't actually film the finished product at the end of the day, but I do have the recording I took the next day from Instagram, so I'm going to pop that in at the end of the video so you can see all our hard work kind of summarised in a lovely clip.
Yeah.
And that's a wrap for this week.
That's a wrap.
This is where we're at with the van build. There are massive rocks everywhere. That's one of Scott's favourite things. We've got the gas pipe. This is the subfloor. This is not, I repeat, not how the floor is going to look when it's done. We've started to build this cabinet. This is where we're going to have a sink. Oh, cardboard. And a fridge there. We've got some upper cabinets for storage. Over here, this big one here is going to be a wardrobe, and this slim one's going to be a pull-out pantry. We're going to have a cooker here, and that's the vent for the gas. It's going to go over the step a little bit. And our big goal this week has been to get the front cab looking a bit more finished. So we've laid the floor here, and we've replaced the handbrake box. So it's ready to go. The plan for today is we are going to head to B&Q, see if it's open or not. We have to go to the dentist anyway, and hopefully get a load more bits and pieces for the van.